Welcome back. ForestEthics, an environmental advocacy group, hits back against government attacks. Today, it released a report showing that, according to it, 71% of all oil sands production in Canada is foreign-owned, and over half of the revenues from the oil sands leave the country. It comes, of course, after the government has been criticizing environmental charities for accepting foreign funds. Minister Peter Kent went so far on this program as to suggest that they even launder foreign funds. So is foreign funding only an issue for the government when it comes to environmental charities? Is foreign funding for the oil sands even a problem? Joining me now in Vancouver is the author and co-founder of ForestEthics, Tzeporah Berman, and blogger and Financial Post contributor Vivian Krause. Good to see you both.
Good to see you.
Good to be here, thanks.
Tzeporah, let's start with you. Your report says that 71% of all oil sands production is controlled by foreign ownership. We did put that to the Natural Resources Minister, Joe Oliver. I want to show viewers what he had to say in response to that. He says, quote, "The foreign ownership control of the Canadian oil industry is about 35%, according to Statistics Canada. We will continue to promote the oil sands as a safe, secure, and socially and environmentally responsible alternative source of energy for the world." That comes from the minister's office. So whose number is right here? He's saying a much lower number, 35%. You're saying 71. How did you come up with yours? Where do you think he got his from?
Well, how we got ours is looking through Bloomberg databases and adding up the foreign investment and shareholders for each company that's operating in the oil sands. And when you do that, what you come up with is 71% of all tar sands production is owned by foreign interests. And the other number that you referred to in your opening, the over 50% of revenue goes to foreign interests, that's a Stats Can number. And the interesting part about that statistic is that that's twice the national average for other industries. So it's twice as much, by percentage basis, leaves the country and supports foreign interests instead of supporting Canadians.
But the minister's number is also from Statistics Canada, and he says that foreign ownership is 35%. I guess I would ask you to explain to viewers, why does it matter?
I think the critical issue here is to look at who's benefiting from the dramatic environmental cuts, the rollbacks to environmental laws that protect our air and water and fisheries that we've seen in the crammed into the omnibus bill C-38 as part of this year's budget. For the last couple of months, we've heard over and over again the government saying that they're going to dramatically reduce environmental laws. They're going to decrease the regulatory processes and approvals because they want to speed up pipeline approvals. And I think the question that we're asking today is, who is benefiting from the weakening of our environmental laws in order to speed up expansion in the oil sands? Because what we know is that Canadians are the ones who bear the risks. We bear the risks of oil spills. We bear an enormous amount of financial liability.
I want to get Vivian Krause in there because I'm guessing, Vivian Krause, you would have a different opinion as to who benefits from development of the oil sands.
Oh, I think the who benefits is the key question. I guess I asked that question about the tar sands campaign that the Rockefeller Brothers fund is funding, in which ForestEthics is participating in. I mean, the Rockefeller Brothers has funded the David Suzuki Foundation to maintain the offshore moratorium on oil and gas. They funded West Coast Law to prevent the development of a tanker port and a pipeline. And they're selectively funding projects to ban tanker traffic, but only on the strategic north coast of British Columbia. So I guess I ask, if tanker traffic is unsafe, if that's why it's being banned, well, what about all the tankers that are bringing oil to the United States? How come there's not a campaign against any of that? How come the only campaign funded by the Rockefellers is one that would block Canadian oil exports to Asia? So I guess my question there is, who benefits from that? And from the participation of Canadian organizations in a campaign to benefit American economic interests.
Okay, so let's let Tzeporah respond to that. Then that, of course, is the government's fundamental allegation as well, that there are foreign funds going into charity organizations.
It's a smokescreen, and we know it's a smokescreen, and I think Canadians can see through it. What the government is trying to do is to create this other conversation about environmental charities so that people won't be looking, and honestly, environmental groups and experts in this country won't have the capacity to look at the significant rollbacks that they're doing to environmental laws. The fact is, 96% of the funding to Canadian environmental charities, according to Imagine Canada, it comes from Canadians. So yes, there is some support from people and philanthropic foundations in other countries, but these are global issues. They're issues that affect our air, our water, transboundary species. So, of course, there are issues of global concern, but the environmental groups that are campaigning in Canada for clean energy, for the development of a new economy that is a high-tech economy that benefits all Canadians and not just the oil patch and big oil, are groups that are predominantly funded by Canadians and who are Canadian.
Vivian, yep.
Well, I guess I would say, if everything about it is so proper, then why is it that even the American foundations themselves have recently rewritten some of their grants, including, for example, a grant to ForestEthics? And, in grants to Greenpeace, to ForestEthics, to West Coast Law, and to Tides Canada, the Oak Foundation has, gone through and carefully taken out the sentences that refer to political activity. For example, the ForestEthics was funded to get a Fortune 500 company to exert influence on the U.S. government to disadvantage Canadian oil. I see that as a trade issue, not as a charitable issue. The West Coast Law was funded nearly $100,000, and the grant said that the desired outcome was a permanent legislative ban on tanker traffic and the cancellation of the Northern Gateway project. Yeah. Well, then they took that sentence out. So if there's nothing wrong with what they were doing, then why do they have to rewrite their grants?
Okay, Tzeporah, I want you to respond, and also if you can respond as to whether your organization has concerns that it is going to be audited by the Canadian Revenue Agency.
Forest Ethics Advocacy is not a charitable organization. It's an independent nonprofit, and we did that on purpose because we think this is a critical moment in Canada's history where we should be having more debate and engaging more Canadians in calling for stronger laws and national energy policy that's made in Ottawa that benefits all Canadians, and not
Vivian,
policy that's just made in the oil patch.
So Vivian Krause, what does it matter if Tzeporah has foreign money then, if she's not a charity, she's a nonprofit organization? Why do you care?
The thing that concerns me about this is that, I agree that we're at a new moment in history. 20 years ago, in fact, Tzeporah talks about this in her book, how 20 years ago the environmental movement had no money. Now, it's funded heavily by billion-dollar foundations and a hedge fund billionaire. So things have changed. And the environmental movement now has much more money than it had even 10 years ago. So I think with more money comes more responsibility for transparency. So I see this actually just as the environmental movement has become very powerful. I mean, let's face it, these campaigns have the capacity to shut down this potentially most important economic project in our country.
Tzeporah, I'll let you respond.
Comes more responsibility.
Tzeporah, Berman, I'll let you respond.
Okay, so Shell made $1 billion last month. We're talking about the most profitable companies on the planet, and the amount of foreign support and donations that go to Canadian charities is a fraction compared to the foreign investment, tens of billions of dollars just in the last couple of years that have gone into the oil sands. So the government and industry are spending literally millions of dollars on ad campaigns, on lobbying around the world and in Canada to roll back environmental laws and push forward an agenda that predominantly benefits big oil. And they're spending our money. They're spending your money and my money. So last year alone, Stats Canada reports that $1 billion in taxpayers' dollars in tax breaks and subsidies went to the oil industry. So they're the most profitable companies in the world, and we're subsidizing them, and then we're being left with the toxic legacy, which right now is about 700 billion liters of toxic sludge in Alberta.
Vivian
Krause, that's going to be our responsibility.
Vivian Krause, 20 seconds to respond
while
to that.
While we're in the billions, let's not forget that the oil industry contributed $18 billion to the provincial and the federal government last year. So it's not like we're getting nothing out of this foreign investment. I'm all for disclosure of foreign investment. I think the foreign funding of the environmental movement should be disclosed too. It's just a matter of transparency.
Sure, but let's be clear. The oil industry in this country employs a little over 100,000 people. That's incredibly important, and we need to figure out how to diversify our economy to ensure that it benefits all Canadians. But let's also remember that charities in this country employ 2 million people.
Okay. And good vigorous debate there. Thank you both very much. I appreciate it. Tzeporah Berman and Vivian Krause in Vancouver. Thank you.